My name is Reverend Rick Brown, and welcome to St. James United Church in Waterdown, Ontario, Canada, for this Good Friday celebration for 2021. This is not our regular worship service. If you're here today watching this service, chances are you're here for one of two reasons. Either because you're a devoted, regular Christian who always attends the Good Friday service because it helps you set up the mood emotionally for Easter Sunday. You know that experiencing the challenge of today makes the joy of Easter Sunday so much more joyful. Or, if you're not a regular worshiping Christian, then my guess is you're here because you're carrying some sort of pain in your heart right now. And you're looking for some sort of spiritual response to that pain. You're maybe searching for a validation or an answer or a sense of direction. Well, I hope you find what you came here for.
What wondrous love is this, O my soul, O my soul? What wondrous love is this, O my soul? What wondrous love is this that caused the Lord of bliss to bear the dreadful curse for my soul? For my soul to bear the dreadful curse for my soul. What wondrous love is this, O my soul, O my soul? What wondrous love is this, O my soul? What wondrous love is this that caused the Lord of life to lay aside his crown for my soul, to lay aside his crown for my soul? To God and to the Lamb I will sing, to God and to the Lamb I will sing. To God and to the Lamb, who is the great I am, while millions join the theme, I will sing, while millions join the theme, I will sing. And when from death I'm free, I'll sing on, and when from death I'm free, I'll sing on. And when from death I'm free, I'll sing and joyful be, and through eternity I'll sing on, and through eternity I'll sing on.
Our scripture reading today is a long one. It comes from Mark's Gospel, chapters 14 and 15. I'm just going to read selected verses from both chapters. This is the story of Jesus' last hours before his execution. It was 2 days before the Passover and the festival of unleavened bread. The chief priests and the scribes were looking for a way to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him. For they said, "Not during the festival, or there may be a riot among the people." They went to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took with him Peter and James and John and began to be distressed and agitated. And he said to them, "I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and keep awake." And going a little further, he threw himself on the ground and prayed that, if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. Immediately, while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived, and with him there was a crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests, the scribes, and the elders. Now the betrayer had given them a sign saying, "The one I will kiss is the man. Arrest him and lead him away under guard." So when he came, he went up to him at once and said, "Rabbi," and kissed him. Then they laid hands on him and arrested him. They took Jesus to the high priest. Some stood up and gave false testimony against him, saying, "We heard him say, 'I will destroy this temple that is made with hands, and in 3 days I will build another not made with hands.'" But even on this point, their testimony did not agree. Then the high priest stood up before them and asked Jesus, "Have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you?" But he was silent and did not answer. Again, the high priest asked him, "Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?" Jesus said, "I am. And you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of the power and coming with the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "Why do we still need witnesses? You have heard his blasphemy. What is your decision?" All of them condemned him as deserving death. As soon as it was morning, the chief priests held a consultation with the elders and scribes and the whole council. They bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And he answered him, "You say so." Then the soldiers led him into the courtyard of the palace, that is, the governor's headquarters. And they called together the whole cohort. And they clothed him in a purple cloak, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on him. And they began saluting him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They struck his head with a reed, spat upon him, and knelt down in homage to him. After mocking him, they stripped him of the purple cloak and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him out to crucify him. They compelled a passer-by who was coming in from the country to carry his cross. It was Simon of Cyrene. Then they brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of a skull. And they crucified him. When it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. At 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And then Jesus gave out a loud cry and breathed his last. And the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. Now, when the centurion who stood facing him saw that in this way he breathed his last, he said, "Truly, this man was God's son." There were also women looking on from a distance. Among them were Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James the younger and of Joseph and Salome. These used to follow him and provided for him when he was in Galilee. And there were many other women who had come up with him to Jerusalem. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
I'm Pontius Pilate. I have to admit that I was under a lot of pressure that day. This Jesus guy had been stirring up a lot of trouble at a time when we needed calm. There was so much religious and racial tension in the streets with the Passover that all it would take would be one revolutionary to stand up and shout, and we've had a riot in our hands. Did you see the way he made mockery of the Herald's parade? I mean, seriously, riding into town in a coat? Even his own temple priests were scared of him. They knew what would happen if their people started a riot. It would mean the end of their access to the temple. So they wanted to arrest him. At first, the people loved him. It wasn't until he threw the money changers out of the temple that even the people turned against him. He was too dangerous to let live. He had to die. But I'm sure I didn't want to be the bad guy here. I needed to make it look like a fair trial or I'd get in trouble. But he wouldn't even give me a straight answer, so I washed my hands of it. I did what I could. He condemned himself. And that's when the crowd started to turn ugly, calling for his execution.
Can you relate to Pilate? Do you find yourself falling into decisions that are wrong because you're afraid to stand up? Do you live your life driven by the whims of others or by your own convictions? Is Jesus an example of courage or foolishness in your eyes?
I am Mary, the mother of Jesus. I had to watch my own son die on the executioner's cross. I wept and cried to God. I wanted to pull him down from that cross, but I couldn't. It wasn't safe. I had flashbacks to being visited by the angel when I was pregnant. I never dreamed his life would end like this. The angel told me that my baby would save the world. I didn't know that would involve his execution. He was the anointed one, the promise of God's new way of living. When I think back, just a few days ago, at the crowds who welcomed him like a royal prince, I never thought it would lead to this. No mother should ever have to bury her own child. This is just wrong. God, why can't you save him?
Can you relate to Mary, the grief-stricken mother? Maybe you haven't lost a child, but maybe you have known a different kind of loss that has cut you to the core. Have you known a loss so great that it made you want to shout at God because of how unfair the world is? Have you wanted to shout at God for being useless and not stopping the tragedy that happened in your life? Are you one who is waiting for the Easter message to be reassured that even death cannot stop the love of God?
I'm Simon from the town of Cyrene in North Africa, where there's a strong Jewish community and where, like Israel, there's Roman domination. I came to Jerusalem to celebrate Passover. My 2 sons live here. The soldiers forced me to help carry Jesus' cross. I didn't want to be involved, I would rather have stayed out of it. I wished that I could have disappeared into the crowd. I just wanted to celebrate Passover like everybody else. I didn't want to get thrust into the center of controversy. I think the only reason they picked me to help is because I'm big enough to carry the weight of a cross. I stood out in the crowd no matter how much I tried to blend it. But then I came face to face with Jesus. And something happened in my heart that changed in that moment. I realized I could no longer be the person that hides from others. This was my time to stand up and do the right thing. I couldn't stop his execution, but I could do my part to make it less painful for him. I could carry his cross.
Can you relate to Simon, once afraid to take a stance, now thrust by circumstances into the limelight that you'd always tried to avoid? Now forced to make a decision to do the right thing? When you look upon the face of Jesus, are you inspired by his resilience to never give up? Some things, like a kingdom of love, are worth standing up for.
I am Mary Magdala. You may know me as Mary Magdalene. Do you know what that means? It means I had a landowning title, and that's been threatening for the men of history to deal with. So they have tried to cast me in all sorts of shameful lights, even as a sex worker. I am none of those things. I am woman. Hear me roar. I was just as much a disciple as any one of those 12 men. But unlike them, I never gave up. I didn't run away. I didn't deny him 3 times. I stood by Jesus, right to his dying breath. What's the worst they could do to me? Kill me too? Give it your best shot. No, instead, they just rebranded me with a scarlet letter, the way so many women have branded throughout history. Jesus changed my life. He inspired me to see the possibilities of a world where everyone lived in love. I will never give up on him.
Can you relate to Mary of Magdala, the powerful one whom the world keeps trying to shut up? Are you the one with the strong voice that others try to silence? Do you feel like the world is trying to negate you or cancel you? Is Jesus your inspiration to never give up, no matter what the world throws at you?
I am Annas, the high priest. Well, truthfully, I'm no longer the high priest. My sons and son-in-law Caiaphas officially fill that role now. But they will look to me for guidance. The people still treat me like high priest. I was still in my mid-20s when the Roman legate Quirinius appointed me as the first high priest of the Roman province of Judea. Many people mistakenly believe that the high priests were chosen by the temple leaders. I was handpicked by the Roman government. I couldn't be more of a blatant puppet for the government if you tied strings to my hands and feet. I knew how to keep the peace, and I knew that's why the Romans appointed me. It was my job to take care of upstarts like Jesus. It was my job to keep the powerful in power. It was my job to keep the comfortable comfortable. It was my job to support the system, not challenge it. I was only doing my job when I sent Jesus to his death.
Can you relate to Annas? Are you caught up in the system of keeping others comfortable? Are you caught up in the system that shields others from accountability or prevents them from seeing the consequences of their actions? Are you just a puppet whose strings are played by others? When you see Jesus, do you feel like you need to make an excuse for what you have not done? Does Jesus challenge you now to change your life and finally do the right thing?
I am Gamaliel, the centurion. I stood in front of Jesus and heard him cry out from the cross that Friday at 3 p.m. It's so vivid in my mind, I'll never forget 1 ounce of detail. I've watched other men die on the cross before, but watching the last breath of that dying man was different. What happened that day at Golgotha changed my life forever. I remember the clouds covering the sun when Jesus died. It was so weirdly dark, like the whole universe was mourning his death. I remember the ground trembling. I remember his last words, my God, why have you forsaken me? Those words still haunt me. There was something about the way nature itself was glaring at us that I knew this man was no ordinary man. He really was the Son of God. I could keep silent no more. I shouted, surely this was the Son of God. And I fell on my knees at the foot of the cross and began to worship him. I was a Roman, not a Jew. I didn't know anything about the religion, but I could not deny what my eyes had just seen and what my heart felt. I would never be the same again. I had touched the presence of holiness.
Can you relate to the centurion? Have you experienced the divine love of God in such a life-changing way that your life can never be the same again? Your world can never be the same again? That's the invitation extended to you this Good Friday. You're invited to be changed like the centurion was. You're invited to confront your own complicitness, buying into the system of privilege like the high priest or Pilate. You're invited to be strengthened in your loyalty like Mary of Magdala, to stand by the gift of God's love no matter what the world throws at you. You're invited to dig deep and find a new divine courage to stand up and do the right thing, like Simon. And you're invited to grieve with those who have lost so much, who carry such great pain, whose babies have been taken away from them because of a corrupt and fearful system of power and privilege, like Mary, mother of Jesus. These are only some of the ways, some of the many different invitations extended to you today as you confront the cross in your own life. Will you be a different person because of today? Have you seen the ugly side of life long enough to say no more? Are you ready to say, today is the day that I will embrace divine love over selfishness, greed, hatred, oppression, and all forms of fear? Today is the day I choose to stand by the crucified one and proclaim that death is not the end of the story. The new day will dawn. Tomorrow will come. God's love will win out over fear and death. Our prayer today is actually a song sung by Rick Harper. It's called I Surrender. It's got beautiful lyrics. If you don't feel like singing along, I encourage you to listen and maybe even speak along with the words and make the words your own. Because you can own these words and say them as if they're coming from your own heart. Here I am, down on my knees again, surrendering all, surrendering all. I surrender. I surrender. I want to know you more. I want to know you more. That's what Good Friday is about, surrendering. Giving control of your life over to the divine source of all love and life. Letting go of fear and trusting God. That God's hands will hold you and lift you up. God's arms will embrace you, and God's heart will give you the courage to be the person that God meant you to be, full of love and full of life. Sing and pray with us.
Father,